Keith McFadden with the United States Geological Survey.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief as well. I just want to give a brief the federal perspective to this whole process of strategic planning and why this is something that we're really interested in. Essentially, I work for the National Geospatial Program, which is part of the U.S. Geological Survey, and it's through the NGPO where we have things like the National Map, Geospatial OneStop, National Atlas, and also the Federal Geographic Data Committee, which is made up of all federal organizations. The oversight is provided by USGS. Just briefly, the NSDI, it involves a lot of things, the clearinghouse metadata, but also focus on the partnerships. And it's the state-local partnerships that are really the key to making the NSDI work, because that's where the data for the national map is going to come from. And then the vision for the national map, a seamless, continuously maintained, nationally consistent database across the entire country. That's the goal of the USGS, and that's why we need to work with state and local partners and agencies to accomplish that. I focused here, highlighted a few of the things I think that are really important to this process: the governance and leadership standards, and then of course the partnerships. These are what I see as the components of the national map that we're trying to address through the strategic planning with the state here. Just briefly, the content of the national map, Danielle covered a little bit of this already, but the imagery, land cover, elevation, hydrography, and geographic names are data sets that are a responsibility of the Geospatial Program. So those are the framework layers that, from a national perspective, that we're interested in. We've already kind of covered that here. Just an example of one of the framework layers would be hydrography, and if you notice that in Georgia, ITOS is one of the partners that we had a long relationship with here in the state, and so we want to keep these things going. And NHD is probably the most mature of all the framework data sets that are available through the national map. It's one that's been under process for quite some time with partners from everyone from the state and local agencies, the EPA, NOAA, Corps of Engineers, all have been partners in development of a national hydro data set. And it's gone from a very low resolution data set to a very high resolution data set in certain areas. So the idea is to incorporate best available local data, blend that into the national map, and make that available to the general public. In Georgia, the NGPO activity here is really to provide support for strategic planning, to develop these framework data stewardships, and to work and coordinate and outreach. And one of the examples of the stewardship is the strategic planning here, which was the FGDC grant with the Georgia GIS Clearinghouse. And then another thing we have going more recently is the Coastal Georgia Elevation Initiative, where we're trying to acquire high-resolution LIDAR derived elevation data for the entire coast of Georgia. That's really involved bringing in the partnerships, the Regional Development Center, state agencies, counties, even nonprofits and for-profit organizations. We're looking at getting bare earth points, elevation model, break lines, contours, and hopefully, I've got here the fall winter of 2009. I think that's about right. I think we're still looking at 2009. Funding is coming through USGS, and this is kind of how we work with these various state and local agencies, is provide some assistance through funding for acquiring these data layers. And we have USGS has various sources that we can also go to external to the USGS for funding. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Homeland Security, they can all provide funding to USGS, and then we can then pass that on to the states for areas that we consider of higher interest. And that's really about it.